My mother said it with the kind of softness people use when they're pretending not to cause harm. There's just no room for the kids this year, Isla. Her voice floated per the phone, gentle and rehearsed, like she wasn't once again excluding my children from Thanksgiving. I glanced at the photo she'd posted earlier that morning. My sister's twins posed beside the lake house fireplace, sweaters matching, cheeks rosy, even their golden retriever had its own embroidered blanket. But my children? No mention, no space, not even an afterthought. And that was the moment something inside me stopped moving. I didn't argue. I didn't shed a tear. I simply said, okay, ended the call, and bought something they'd never see coming. A penthouse in New York with more space than all of their excuses combined. And the second word got around, their voices shifted like magic. Layla, we'd love to come to your place this year. Of course they would. But before I tell you how that played out, hit like and tell me where you're watching from, because this time I finally carved out room for the truth. My name is Layla Carter. I'm 34, mother of two, and the middle child in a family where I was always the quiet space between the ones who sparkled. My sister Natalie was the sun, 3 years older, all easy brilliance and charm, a magnet for praise. Teachers adored her, neighbors gushed about her, and my parents practically folded their lives around her shine. My younger brother Drew was the treasured baby, soft and thoughtful, with the sort of gentleness everyone loved instantly. And then there was me. Not unloved, just unnoticed, the dependable middle child who didn't ask for much and didn't get much either. We grew up in a manicured neighborhood of Connecticut, where hedges were trimmed and smiles were practiced. My father balanced books for a living as an accountant. My mother taught third graders and believed in tidy routines, quiet rules, and predictable days. At dinner, the conversation was always Natalie-centered. Her test scores, her trophies, her future plans. Eventually, I learned how to be the silent hand that passed the salt and nodded at the right moments. When I left for college in Boston, no one asked what I hoped to major in. Finance seemed stable, safe, and practical. That practicality somehow became passion. I built my career deliberately, climbing rung after rung until I became an investment director. Along the way, I met Aaron, the man who became my ex-husband. He was ambitious, bright, someone whose drive matched mine. For a few years, we made sense. Two people with mapped-out lives, shared goals, and calendars filled with plans. We married young, bought a house, welcomed Lily and James, and for a while, I thought I'd built the family I always wanted. But love strains under exhaustion. His job pulled him west, mine rooted me east. He started chasing excitement. I longed for steadiness. Our marriage didn't explode, it dissolved. Papers signed quietly, custody divided, lives untangled without drama. I stayed with the kids, the mortgage, and the daily rhythm. I became the mom who left breakfast notes, managed school runs between investor calls, and folded laundry while reviewing quarterly reports. That first Thanksgiving after the divorce, I assumed my parents would gather us close. Instead, my mother called the night before and said gently, "Maybe you should come alone, sweetheart. The house is full with Natalie's twins and the dog." The word alone slipped in lightly, but cut like a blade. I hung up, looked at my sleeping children curled up together, and realized the hierarchy I grew up under hadn't vanished. It had grown roots. That night, I promised myself something quietly. The cycle ends with me. Holiday after holiday followed the same painful pattern. Invitations disguised as excuses. Photos online that showed everything they refused to say aloud. By the second year, I could predict my mother's voice before she even finished dialing. "Sweetheart, Natalie's bringing the twins again, and you know how your father gets when the house is crowded. Maybe next time." Next time never arrived. On social media, I watched their picture-perfect gatherings, matching pajamas, towering Christmas trees, the golden retriever posing proudly in front of the fireplace. Meanwhile, my children asked questions that stabbed deeper each year. Why doesn't Grandma want us there? I never knew how to answer, so I turned holidays into baking nights and movies, pretending the three of us were too busy being happy to notice the exclusion. The moment that broke me came quietly. Lily whispered one night, "Do you think Grandma likes their dog more than us?" And I cried in the shower so she wouldn't see. Still, I stayed the peacekeeper. I sent gifts, updates, invitations. Nothing shifted. Then came the 4th of July call. "Ela," my mother started, "about the lake house weekend. We're short on beds. The basement flooded and the porch is unsafe for sleeping." The lie was so smooth, I almost smiled. Later, Drew texted me a photo of the fully renovated basement. New carpet, big TV, game table, and no sign of water damage. The twins were beaming in the shot, and hanging above them on a framed sign, "Family makes this house a home." That picture scorched something inside me. It was never about room. It was about priority. The next morning, Lily overheard her cousin on a video chat saying, "Grandma says your place is too small for big dinners. She likes it here better." Lily hung up, turned to me, and asked, "Mom, is that true?" I knelt and told her, "No, sweetheart. Our home is perfect for us. Some people only see value in what looks big. They forget what matters." But that night, I lay awake thinking about the simplest truth. I was done begging for affection doled out like crumbs. If they didn't want space for my children, I would create a life where space wasn't something they could weaponize. When you spend a lifetime staying quiet, there's a strange peace that settles in right before you decide to stop. That peace found me as I opened my laptop and typed in New York penthouses for sale. I wasn't chasing luxury. I was chasing something I'd never truly had: belonging. For weeks, my life became a secret plan. Between school runs and boardrooms, I toured listings with my advisor, Jennifer Torres. "You're in an excellent position, Isla. You can buy something extraordinary." And I did. A sprawling 4-bedroom penthouse on the Upper East Side. Sunlight poured through glass walls. A rooftop terrace watched over the city. The kitchen looked like possibility itself. I pictured Lily spreading her paints across the dining table, James lining up his Lego rockets in the corner. A home that felt like it could breathe. I told no one except Tyler, my closest friend. When he saw the pictures, he leaned back and smiled. "This isn't revenge, Isla. This is evolution." By autumn, we were spending weekends in the new home, decorating slowly, making it ours. Plants, soft rugs, colors that invited warmth. Lily painted a mural of Central Park on her wall. James insisted on constellations that lit up when he slept. One night, standing on the rooftop with them under the city lights, I realized an easy and astonishing thing. They would never again say there wasn't room for us. Then my phone rang. My mother. "Ela, about Thanksgiving," she began, sweetness dripping through the receiver. "We're hosting again, but Natalie's bringing the twins and the dog, so it might be a squeeze." "That's all right," I said, cutting calmly through her rehearsed regret. "We won't be coming. The kids and I are hosting Thanksgiving at our new place in New York." There was a silence long I could hear her breath catch. "A new place?" "Yes, a penthouse on the Upper East Side." A pause. Then her tone shifted like a curtain being pulled aside. "Oh, Isla, that's wonderful. Maybe we could all come to you this year. You have the space now." And just like that, years of no room vanished, replaced by sudden enthusiasm. I smiled. "Let me think about it." But the answer in my heart was already firm. They had mistaken my quiet for weakness. The next days felt like watching the same play, but with a different script. Their messages came sugar-coated. Natalie texted first. "Mom says you got a penthouse? Which building?" I gave her nothing. "Just moved in, keeping things simple." "Perfect," she replied. "The twins want to see the parade. We'll stay with you. It'll be so fun." Then my father chimed in. "Your mother and I feel it would be wonderful for everyone to gather at your new home this year." And the story picked up exactly where they left off. "We can bring dessert." Even relatives I hadn't heard from in years started sending messages. "We'd love to see your new home, Isla." The same people who couldn't make room for my children suddenly found all the space in the world for themselves. Tyler shook his head when I told him. "They're not coming because they love you," he said. "They're coming because they love how it looks." He was right. When my father called again, his voice carried that old authority, the one that used to make me fold. Isla, it'll mean a lot to your mother if we could all come. Family is important, especially now that you've done so well for yourself. I let the silence stretch. You mean now that I finally have something you respect? Don't start that again, he said sharply. We love all our children equally. Equally, I repeated, tasting the word like something sour. Is that what you told Lily and James when they slept on air mattresses while Natalie's dog had my old room? He started to sputter, defensive as always, but this time I didn't feel the quiet. I just said, Dad, anyone who didn't make room for my kids before doesn't get a seat at our table now. I hung up before he could respond. The morning of Thanksgiving arrived crisp and bright. The terrace glowed under the November sun, set with candles and white linen. Tyler and his wife were already there, carving turkey and laughing with the Johnsons, our neighbors from Boston who'd made the trip. Drew showed up last, holding flowers and guilt in equal measure. I should have said something years ago, he said quietly. You shouldn't have had to go through that alone. Then don't let it happen again, I told him. By mid-afternoon, the place was alive with the kind of warmth I hadn't felt in years. Laughter, music, kids chasing each other through hallways too big for old pain. Lily moved confidently among the guests, proud of the place cards she'd made by hand. James gave tours of his glow-in-the-dark ceiling like a proud realtor. At 4:30, the elevator chimed. My parents stepped out, holding a pie and a forced smile. Isla, my mother said breathless, this is extraordinary. Thank you, I said evenly. Dinner's over, but you're just in time for dessert. They exchanged a glance, realizing this wasn't the triumphant arrival they'd imagined. When Lily and James appeared in the doorway, everything went still. My father cleared his throat. Lily, James, we wanted to say something. He knelt, awkward, unused to the position. We haven't been the grandparents you deserve. We made excuses instead of space, and that was wrong. My mother's eyes filled as she knelt beside him. Can you forgive us? We'd like to do better if you'll let us. The room held its breath. I didn't say a word. This moment wasn't mine to answer. Lily looked at me, then back at them. Will you come to my art show next month? She asked softly. Of course, my father said quickly. Drew crossed his arms. And can we sleep at your house sometimes? Not on the floor. My mother nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. You'll have your own room, sweetheart. They hugged, small and careful, as if touching something fragile. Around us, everyone exhaled the kind of collective release that only happens when a truth finally lands. But not everyone had learned. At that exact moment, Natalie's name flashed across my phone screen. Natalie, can't believe you didn't invite us. Mom said it's incredible up there. The twins were so excited. Natalie, Bentley's sad too, LOL. Then you're being dramatic, Isla. It's Thanksgiving. Stop making everything about you. I typed slowly. Actually, Natalie, for once, it's about my kids. And if you ever want to be part of their lives again, you can start by apologizing to them, not me. She didn't reply, but I saw her typing bubble blink, vanish, then return, like someone choking on pride. When I looked up, Drew had been watching me. She'll never admit it, he said. I know, I replied, but that's her burden, not mine. Outside, the city hummed beneath the fading light. From the terrace, we could see the edge of Central Park, glowing gold. Lily leaned on the railing beside me. Mom, it feels good here, she said. It does, I agreed, because everyone here wants to be. My father joined us, quieter now, smaller somehow. You've built something beautiful, Isla, he said. I nodded. I built what I needed. He looked out over the skyline, eyes distant. Your mother and I thought we were doing our best. I know, I said softly, but good intentions don't fill empty chairs. Behind us, laughter rose again, real, unforced, echoing through the open doors. I took one last look at the table where my children's names were written in their own handwriting. Lily, James, always room for us. And for the first time in years, that sentence felt true. Over the next few months, the air between us shifted in small but undeniable ways. My parents started calling more often, not to pry, but to ask about the kids. True to their word, they came to Lily's art show that December. My father stood in front of her watercolor of Central Park and said quietly, "She's got your eye for detail." It wasn't much, but it was the first honest compliment I'd heard from him in years. They began showing up for the little things, too. James's school play, weekend lunches, even helping with science projects over video calls. It was awkward at first, like strangers learning a new language, but each time the edges of old resentment softened just a bit. I didn't rush it. I let them earn their way back, one consistent gesture at a time. Drew became a steady presence, visiting the penthouse whenever he could. He'd bring groceries, play board games with the kids, and tell me stories about how Dad had started clearing out the old lake house, how he'd finally removed that framed "family makes this house a home" sign. He says it never sat right with him after what happened. And Drew told me maybe guilt could be useful when it finally turned into reflection. Natalie stayed silent. There were no apologies, no olive branches, just distance. And honestly, that was fine. Not every story needs reconciliation. Some just need closure. My kids stopped asking about her, and I didn't bring her up. Peace sometimes means subtraction. Professionally, things bloomed. The firm promoted me to managing director, and I started mentoring younger women who reminded me of myself. Ambitious, talented, trying too hard to fit into spaces that didn't deserve them. I told them what I'd finally learned. Never beg for a seat at someone else's table. Build your own and set the rules yourself. One Saturday in early spring, I woke to the smell of pancakes. Lily and James had taken over the kitchen, flour on the counter, laughter spilling across the marble. When I asked what the occasion was, Lily grinned. "We're practicing for next Thanksgiving," she said. "We're hosting again, right?" I smiled. "Always." As we ate breakfast on the terrace, sunlight spilling through the city haze, I thought about how far we'd come from sleeping on air mattresses to building something no one could take away. It wasn't the penthouse that made it feel whole. It was the peace, the laughter, the certainty that in this space, every inch belonged to love. That spring evening, I stood alone on the rooftop as the city lights blinked awake one by one. The terrace was quiet now, except for the faint sound of my children laughing inside. For years, I had mistaken silence for peace, thinking that if I didn't fight back, things would stay calm. But peace without respect is just suppression, and silence only protects the ones who hurt you. I thought about all the no-room excuses, all the holidays I'd spent pretending it didn't sting. They taught me something I never learned in business school. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you decide who can walk through. Downstairs, Lily and James were setting the dinner table. 2 plates, a vase of fresh tulips, place cards they'd written themselves. "Mom," James called, "we saved you the best seat." I looked at those little cards, "always room for us," and felt the kind of warmth that doesn't depend on anyone's approval. So if you've ever been the one left out, the one told there wasn't space for you, remember this. You don't need permission to take up room. You build your own table. You decide who earns a seat. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever had to stand up to your own family? I read every message, and your stories remind me none of us are alone in this. Hit that like button, subscribe for more real stories about family and quiet revenge. And never forget, the most powerful room you'll ever create is the one you make for your own self-respect.